Recording live from Glory Hole Studios in Chicago and beyond. This is Cognitive Dissonance. Every episode we blast anyone who gets in our way. We bring critical thinking, skepticism, and irreverence to any topic that makes the news, makes it big, or makes us mad. It's skeptical, it's political, and there is no welcome mat. Today is Wednesday, February the 5th. I think we're back to a time where every day counts.
I know, right? Can you imagine how much things are going to change between now and Monday when this releases?
We're essentially recording this podcast in like a land of irrelevance.
Yeah.
Like
we might as well be tweeting it out from the Titanic.
We used to like talk about this 24-hour news cycle. Now we have like a 24-minute news cycle.
It's insane, dude.
Every time I open like one of my news apps, I'm like, well, that's a fresh hell. I don't even know what to do.
It's so bad. Every day is the worst.
So bad. The only upside is that we can soon book our vacation to the Middle East Riviera. And that, Cecil, is a thing that was said out loud yesterday.
Can I just say how angry all of that makes me? I mean, I'm just so
horrible.
Fucking furious.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, if they actualize this, and so far, he's fucking doing everything. The thing is, like, I told you so. I promised myself I wouldn't do that. But I'm going to say
just
this.
Do it once right now. Just do it quick.
I fucking told you so. We really did. A lot of people did. But like, I just want to say that the only things that are happening are all the things we were told to expect to happen by the guy doing them now.
That we were warned about.
Right.
He warned us.
So, like, our surprise and our shock and our dismay shouldn't be that we didn't know what this snake was. Like, that's not fair. Like, it's not really a fair take on what's going on. Our surprise and our shock and our dismay should come from the destruction of the norms and the systems that we thought were in place to protect us from, like, this kind of overreach. Mm-hmm. When it comes to, like, the Gaza thing, I do think, like, to some degree, he made a lot of noise about not wanting to be involved in wars in the Middle East, not wanting to, go sort of adventuring off into these endless wars, all this kind of stuff. So I do think that this particular solution of I'll just real estate develop, we'll displace 1.8 million human beings into a beautiful unnamed land, fucking question mark details to follow. Mm-hmm. We'll bulldoze the rubble and build condos. Mm-hmm. Like, to some degree, that's a shock, but also to a larger degree, no, it's not. It's like, did you really, like, no serious person could possibly have thought, I bet Trump will have a more gentle, more fair, more empathetic, more a solution that will recognize, like, the sovereignty of the Arab peoples. There's no serious person that could have thought that. No. This is a bizarre solution, but honestly, when I read his remarks on it, I thought all of this is very consistent.
It's all on brand.
Yeah, it's all perfectly on brand.
Yeah.
I want to build condos.
Yeah.
Like, of course he does. If we fucking hired a real estate developer to be the president, and his solution is like, well, I got this hammer. Yeah. I'm going to walk around looking for nails.
Yeah. When everything's a condo. I feel the same. I feel in a very similar situation where, I don't want to say, I told you so. I don't know that that's helpful in this situation.
It's not.
I also don't know that I am properly presenting their argument, because I think a lot of people who might have protest voted or stayed home or whatever they did, they knew it was going to be bad either way.
Right.
So I don't think that they were expecting this to be good. I think they were expecting it to be bad, but to them, it doesn't matter how bad it is. It's always going to be bad, right? That's their thought process, is that it's always going to be bad. And it is. It's always going to be bad. I think there was something to be said about the right before there seemed to be a ceasefire deal that was worked out right before Biden left office. There was removal of certain types of weaponry that they stopped doing during Biden. So I don't think you can arguably say that it's the same thing. I think they are two totally different things. And I think you're lying if you think that they are exactly the same. But I think we're in this situation now where we've got to expect that the people who were following Trump, they were saying and beating the drum of stop these endless wars, let's make sure America's out of it. But they never cared about that. Just like they don't care about the deficit when they take over. They don't care about the spending limit when they take over. They don't care about taxation when they take over. All they care about is that they took over.
Yeah.
And then whatever they want to do and whatever these oligarchs want to do in office, we just let them do it. And I don't think they actually cared or had a principled stance about any of that stuff before he took office.
I have a question for you, a serious question that just occurred to me, is that when it comes to us on the left have, I think, there's a divergence here. And I wonder what you think of this. Like, I think that I get a sense that there is a group of people who are willing to stay home or protest vote or otherwise not engage the system sort of as it is. And I think that there's a desire to do that because they want to see lasting long-term change, shifting the Democratic Party to the left, where their values are better aligned. And that is in opposition to sort of this patience for incremental change. I think you and I have we're a little older, we're more institutionalists, I think, in general.
Sure.
And I think we have a higher degree of patience for incremental change because I think my experience has taught me that is more likely to happen. But I think that there's a lot of idealists on the left who are saying, we're going to accept a certain amount of carnage in the short term in order for the Democratic Party to actually rebuild itself as really a left-leaning party that will have long-term and lasting change. If I think about it that way, I think it's a more generous take. I think that what's happening when I think about it that way is we're misaligned, I think, on our timeline and sort of like, but our goals are the same. Do you see what I'm trying to get at?
I do.
What do you think of that idea, that tension?
I think there's something to that. I really do think that. I think one thing that people that are more wishing for something to move quicker don't realize is that because of the way the pendulum swings in our country, and even if you do get something that feels quicker, right? You feel like you're quicker. If you go too far, the conservatives pull you back. And so regardless of how far you progressed, they're still going to pull you back. So it's still incremental. Mm-hmm. So no matter what, if you go incremental, then maybe you can stay in power, but it's not as fast as possible, but you're not tearing things down and building them up constantly.
Right.
Instead, you're just building up slowly and building up in a way that has a deeper comfort zone for people that are in centrist and maybe closer like to the right. Whereas if you build up too quickly, look at what's going to happen with gay rights soon. Dude.
Yeah, I know.
Look at what's going to happen. Look at what's going to happen. Look at what's already happening to trans people. And look at there's a myriad of things you can point to right now. Abortion access. There's all these things you can point to say we had that slow incremental progress for a long time. And if people wanted to move past that, now we're ripping it down and we're well past where it even started to go upward. So I think the thing is like there's a pragmatism to the slow and steady because it doesn't there's not as much upheaval back and forth. There's not as much big of a pendulum swing back and forth.
Have you ever had, Cecil, in your life, like maybe this is a crazy analogy, but like walk with me here. Like have you ever had like a knot, like maybe you're out camping or something and all your stuff and it's this crazy knot and you look at it and it's like it's like a knot on a knot on a knot on a knot. And you start like sort of trying to figure out how to untie it. And it's become so gnarled and so like weather beaten and worn and like cemented in that like your fingers hurt. And you just kind of can't even get to the base of the problem, that first starting knot.
Yeah.
And so you grab a knife and you cut the rope and you start over. And what I think I feel is that all across America on both sides of the aisle, there is a desire there's so much frustration at the complexity of all these systems and the complexity of these problems and this sort of like, quagmire of non-solutions and slow solutions and half solutions we keep finding ourselves in. I think that both sides are sort of like, let's start by cutting the whole fucking thing. Let's start by burning it down and then we'll rebuild it. Because the right certainly has a burn it down attitude, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think to some degree, there is a feeling on the left as well that is like, all right, we need to break it in order to rebuild it, to fix it in terms of the Democratic Party. And it feels like it comes from that same place of like, look, these knots have become too complicated and we need to just cut it and fucking throw it away and start over. And I am, as a person who 100% reaches for the knife every time in his life and is like, that looks hard.
Yeah.
I'm so sympathetic to that. But I also like fully understand that it feels easy because it's quick, but it's the hardest, slowest, worst way to build solutions.
Yeah.
Because starting from the bottom, like it's like when Trump talks about Gaza and he's like, well, it's all rubble, so we'll just bulldoze it and start over. And it's like, yeah, it's easy to say, man, but like there's 2 million human beings that live there. So like his solution feels like, well, we'll just fucking cut the knot and do something different. So I actually think that we're kind of motivated psychologically by very similar principles. You know, I don't know if that makes any sense, if that's a good analogy or not.
I think it's a great analogy. And I think too, I don't want to give people the impression that what I'm saying is that we need to be in the center. I don't think that's the case. I think there is progress to be made. And I think we can make progress. And I think we can move forward with a level of progress. And I am also frustrated by the level and quickness at which progress sometimes gets stagnated.
For sure.
So I'm 100% with the people who are farther left that say, no, this is moving too slow. And I'm also very privileged. So I sit in a center where I'm not actually in problems. I'm not in these issues.
Right.
I'm not in this deep, like maybe racism or transphobia, or I don't need abortion access, or I'm not living in a way that I'm like, I might be unhomed or something like that, right? Where I need that sort of triage right away. So I recognize that place that I speak that from. But I want to make sure that like that shit just doesn't go away forever. And what you're witnessing is starting to see this shit is starting to go away forever. I really do believe what I said last week when I said we need to make a tent of all the people they hate. And guess what, man? You fucking leftists that are out there that are mad at how slow it's going, you're with us.
Yeah.
You're with us. Yeah. I want you to drag us. I want you to push us. I want you to do that, but I want you to be with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be with us. I get it. You're that part of the party that we need. We have to have that push forward, and I want you there. But what I don't want is for you to fucking peace out every time it gets hard.
Yeah.
That's what I don't want to see. I want to see you pushing harder on the party when it feels hard. I want you to be that motor that pushes us that way. I also don't want to push the people away that might be on the fringes of the right, where, it might be difficult and hard for them to be in that space, to be in that progressive space. But I want to help those people be in that space. So I want to do both things. And I want to make sure that this party is bigger and more inclusive instead of less inclusive and isolationist.
Yeah, I'm going to draw another analogy because I think it's really socially apropos. And I'm just trying to what I recognize is important, I think, is to really try to understand at the ground level what is motivating us so that we can do the work of building the tent. Because the thing, we were talking about this before the show, like if the last 20 days or 30 days or whatever it is has taught less than 30 days, Jesus Christ, have taught us anything, it's this. And I really
16 days.
Fuck me running. Fuck me running, bro. Like here's the most important thing. Winning matters more than anything else.
Yeah, man.
This is, if there's ever a doubt in your mind, the last 16 days needs to prove that the most important thing is winning. Because when they win, look at what the fuck is happening. So we got to find a way to win. And a way to win is not to like flip fucking birds at people because we're right about something and to like break our own party apart or to refuse to create a bigger party and a bigger, arms around tent full of people who have divergent views because they don't pass the same like ideological testing that you feel like you pass, right? I know I'm wrong about some things. I'm a human being.
Yeah.
I must be wrong about things. I can't know what those things are. If I did, I would stop being wrong about them. So I have to hold that in my head. You know what I mean? I have to hold in my head that I know I'm wrong. I don't know what I'm wrong about. So I need to have more people with more opinions in my life. And if I have more people with more opinions in my life, maybe I can get closer to right, or I can have more considered positions. that's how we build a bigger party. We got an email from somebody. I don't know if you saw it. We got an email from somebody talking about like the difficulty right now that men are having. It was a very lengthy and thoughtful and considered email.
I did see it, yeah.
And as we're talking about this, and as you were talking, I was thinking of that email that we got. And one of the things that I was thinking is, I don't think it matters very much in a practical sense whether I think that that guy is right or wrong. What I recognize from a practical sense is that, like, we are in a place where there is a crisis, where people, a serious cohort of people feel like they have no ideological home. And that if we don't give them a home that is empathetic and decent, they will find whatever other home takes them in. So our responsibility is to provide a home, even if we don't agree with all of the people all of the time. But we can build a home together that is better and more ideologically decent. If we don't do that, they will go find some place that accepts them.
They'll find some place they fit in.
Yeah. And the same is true, like, from this email that we got, you know, and he made a really good point. He's like, hey, if men feel this way, they're going to gravitate toward these other messages. And you could have a real argument about, like, hey, men really shouldn't feel that way. It's a bullshit way to feel. That's not useful. That's not useful. You're never going to tell somebody, hey, that's a bullshit way to feel. Come into my house and this is a trusting space where you can be vulnerable. That doesn't work. You have to invite them into your house first. Teach them to trust you. Allow them to be vulnerable. Allow them to share and break bread with you ideologically. And then we can work on building, like, the right kind of shape for this party. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Like, it feels so similar, like the same inflection and crisis points.
Sure. No, I don't disagree. I think, like, I think that it's important to point out that not everybody has to do that work. I think it's important to point out that people who are in vulnerable spaces shouldn't be the ones who have to go out and do that outreach. So that's an important thing to point out, right? The people who have the privilege and the power and the ability to do that work should be the ones who are reaching out and saying, hey, let me help you, make you comfortable. And then we can sort of see where you stand and how you can maybe understand this process.
Right.
I don't expect someone who's part of the sort of cohort that this person doesn't like because they think they're being oppressed by them or something to have to do that work. I don't feel like that's a good thing to do. So I want to make sure I make that clear, but I don't think that throwing people away because they don't think exactly like you is a good idea. I think you need to try to convince people that your ideas are good. And along the way, you may learn that they're not.
Yeah, right.
You know, along the way, you may learn something about yourself that says, you know what, maybe I didn't consider this as well as I should have before.
Yeah.
And, you know, you change and you grow. And so, like, I think that we need to be in a place where we're okay with that sort of reaching out. Do I want to reach out to, and I know people will say this, like, there's a story in the thing today that we have in the block. We might not get to it, but it's Klobuchar calling for bipartisanship. And people are like, hey, man, there's no room for allying ourselves with fascists, right? There's no room.
Totally agree.
And bipartisanship means that, right now, because the one side is fucking crazy.
Yep.
Right? So I get that. And I understand there is a line where there's like, no, there's just too far. You've gone too far. I can't reach you. You've got to come on this side in order for me to reach you.
Yep.
After this point, like, there be monsters here.
Yep.
And there's no way I can't reach you anymore. You have to reach me now.
Right.
Now it's on you to reach me. At a certain point, there's a group of people like that. But I think that group is bigger than sometimes we're willing to let it be.
Yeah.
I think there are people that are completely reachable that you can still reach and pull back and say, look, we've got to work together if we want a better world.
Man, 100%. Like, it is what I'm suggesting, just to be clear, is we need to build a space where the left and the center left can figure out how to win together.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I'm trying to suggest, is the left and the center left have to figure out how to win together.
Yep.
And we'll work out the fucking details in payroll.
Yep.
We'll get all that stuff. We'll get a lot wrong. We'll get some of it right. That's great. But what we can't do is lose again. That's not working. That can't work. 16 days and we're like, when we record next, I don't know if there'll be a Department of Education.
Might not be. Well, it's got to go through Congress, but still. Yeah.
I don't know if the Department of Education will have any people that are working there. You know, like there's a lot of ways to break things.
You're right.
And they're looking for
They're doing all their best. They're doing their best work right now.
to break
Let me tell
everything.
you, they are doing their best work.